7 o'clock. Call the Savage City Council meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Council members Bergstrom.
Here.
Coughlin.
Here.
Crakes. Johnson.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to presentation, proclamations, and public comments. Our first presentation is from our Public Works and Park and Recreation Department. Greg.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight I want to give you a quick update of the Public Works and Parks and Recreation Department. Then followed by that, you'll have an Engineering and Utilities update. Want to just give you a quick note. This week is Engineering Week. And so after the meeting, Singh will be out in the lobby for hugs for our city engineer. The Public Works and Parks and Recreation Department we're organized a little differently than maybe some other cities, where we separate out Public Works, maintenance, and Parks and Recreation, and all that has to do with Parks and Recreation, from Utilities and Engineering. And Singh and I work really closely together to kind of lead that the overall department, if you will. But we've broken it down into a couple of different mission statements, and I'd like to read them to you if I could. The Parks and Recreation Division is dedicated to enriching the lives of the Savage residents by providing exceptional parks, facilities, and recreational opportunities. And then we goes on to talk about the maintenance and all the different things that we do. In our maintenance division, the maintenance division is dedicated to preserving and enhancing the infrastructure, parks, and facilities that support the quality of life for Savage residents. So I think those two sentences really kind of encapsulate what we do in Public Works and Park and Rec. Our org structure is like this. We have our overall department. You see the dotted line where we work in collaboration with Utilities and Engineering. And we break ourselves down into two different divisions, maintenance and Parks and Recreation. Maintenance is made up of our streets, parks, facilities, and fleet. So all of the vehicles in the city are underneath that fleet division. We try to maintain all of them as much as we can in-house, but then also send some out for work in other parts of the city. Our Parks and Recreation Division has two different groups. One is the Recreation Services. Those are the folks you hear most about. They run all of our programs and all of our facilities. And then our Parks Planning, we lay that underneath our Parks and Recreation Division, even though myself and Assistant Public Works Director Trent Judding do a lot of that planning. That's where the actual work falls in terms of our workflow. Just a quick overview. I'm not going to read you every single name, but there is our entire department of people who work in Public Works and Parks and Rec. These are just some of the highlights of the things that we do, and I'll read the last two bullets to you. Is Public Works staff assists in setup for voting, Dan Patch Days, City Recycle Day, and other special events. And I highlight that as just some of the things that you don't normally think about when you think of Public Works. Obviously, a lot of people think about mowing in the parks or plowing of the streets and a lot of those types of things. But our staff are doing much more than just those big things that we do. All right. And we'll move on here to some of our accomplishments. In 2024, our maintenance division, we absorbed the facilities maintenance into our division. Previously, that was underneath retired Community Development Director Jay Shear. And when he retired, the transition came over to us in maintenance, and it's worked out really well. It's provided some challenges getting to understand the maintenance division a little bit differently. And we are doing some strategic planning, trying to bring forward some things. And we'll talk about that in our challenges. Expanded our use of our asset management software. It's called OpenGov is the company that runs a smaller piece of software called Cartograph. So we use those terms interchangeably, but it's really managing every asset, everything that we have within our infrastructure. We're putting into this system, tracking it, knowing when we're maintaining it so we can update it and put it on a life cycle replacement. This piece of software is really helpful. It's also very expensive. So we're doing it, implementing it in phases and trying to be very judicious about how we're spending the funds. The implementation of the Emerald Ash Borer Management Program. You've all heard about EAB. With these milder winters, knock on wood, that we've had the last two seasons, we've been able to jump way ahead into where we thought we would be in managing EAB. Remember, it's a management program. It is not an eradication program. We can't possibly eradicate it. And then another accomplishment is maintaining our budget with increased demand on services and costs of materials and equipment. And I don't want to gloss over that because our materials and equipment costs have skyrocketed. And even just with ordering equipment and getting equipment, the availability, it's getting better, but we're still kind of have that, if I will call it a COVID hangover. But we're maintaining budget, which I think is really good. I'm proud of my staff for that. Our future challenges in maintenance is developing and funding facilities maintenance program. That's just an ongoing thing as we start to really systematically look at all of our facilities. Funding the expansion and implementation of the asset management program and software, like I talked to you about before. And then here's a big one for us, and it's part of our overall vision or mission for the city, which is recruiting, hiring, and retaining high-quality seasonal and full-time staff for maintenance. We have 2 positions that are open right now. One is our supervisor for parks maintenance, and one is upcoming, which would be a mechanic. Those 2 positions have retired, and so we are trying to fill those positions. And it's a challenge to get high-quality individuals who want to come work here, and we can pay them well. We feel the comp and class study that you funded for us, and thank you for that, is going to help us out tremendously. Parks and Recreation accomplishment, Creek Hill Park construction is well underway. It should be opening sometime early in 2025. When I say early 2025, I'm talking about warm weather 25. So late spring, early summer, we should be getting things rolling out there. The new turf at the Sports Center was accomplished. We are very proud of that, and the new turf has just been fantastic so far. With the shell up, people are loving it. It is providing some challenges for us. It's different than what we were used to, but overall, it's been a great investment. Our community parking lot got redone this year. That was a huge accomplishment for us. Big inconvenience for our park users, but I say short-term pain, long-term gain. Our Treats and Tunes program has taken off like gangbusters. Who would have thought something so simple as giving away some ice cream will gather community? And it has really worked well. We've moved around from park to park. This season, we're having some new parks and some repeat parks this year. So hopefully we'll continue to gain on that momentum. And then our Community Adventures Camp is one of our youth programs that doesn't get highlighted a lot. This was the brainchild of our recreation staff several years ago, and it has built itself on itself each year, and we have over several hundred kids in that program. It's a duplicated number because each week is a different registration, but boy, they're just really enjoying it, and it's one that people are clamoring for already. Registration for our programs begin March 4th, and we've got phone calls coming in daily about getting registered for Community Adventures Camp. Very proud of staff in that one. Future challenges for Parks and Recreation is implementation of the Parks Master Plan that you adopted in 2023. That'll be an ongoing challenge for us over the next 20 years. The big one for you, which is part of our strategic plan, and you'll be hearing more and more about as this year goes along, is sustainable funding for parks, recreation, trails, and natural resources. That was one of our strategic goals that we identified a couple years ago. And with the completion of the master plan, we can now really start diving into identifying some of that sustainable funding for us. And then programming strategic planning. This is the actual recreation programs. I'm working with our staff in doing some strategic planning, figuring out what programs fit the needs of our community, how can we deliver them affordably and be responsible to what the needs are. Here's some of our activity measures. If you note right at the bottom, I'm going to go right to that. In 2025, these activity measures are being revised. We're hoping to bring forward reports on a monthly basis that'll be more meaningful and actually show you some changes in things. So for example, you see we inspected 21 playgrounds for safety improvements. Now these safety inspections aren't just done twice a year. These are done weekly. We do visual inspections, we do walkthrough inspections, and then we do twice a year head-to-toe inspections. It's a big program to limit liability and, of course, maintain a safe playground for all of our users. Number's not going to change a whole lot from year to year. We'll change this next year when we add Creek Hill Park and the playground there into this program, but that's kind of a static number. We want to give you some more dynamic numbers, and we're working on some ways to do that. But we maintain over 30 miles of trail, 131 miles of lane miles of road. We had 11 snow events last season. You notice that's a seasonal number versus the 36 in the year before that or the season before that. This year, we're right about that same 11, 12, 13 number as of now. We'll continue to see that grow if we get more snow, and if we don't, who knows? Reservations have been very steady at the sports center. Our garden plots doubled almost because we added a whole new site for garden plots this last year. And then our ELC reservations, again, are very steady. So those are just some of the measurements that we use, and we'll be revising those as the years go along. If you have any questions, otherwise I'll turn it over to Sang.
Do you have any questions? No. I just have 2 comments. So I mentioned it, I know, at another meeting. The new turf at the Savage Sports Center is remarkable. I mean, there is such a difference in walking there, and I like to do that at that noon hour, and it's fabulous. So if you haven't done it, do that. And I also want to give kudos to your staff and everybody for the treats and tunes this summer. I think I made every event. And the crowds that were there and the people and how much fun everybody was having, I just love how you reinvented that. And I give kudos to your staff because I thought it was just amazing.
Well, thank you, Mayor Kelly. Thank you to the council for your support in the turf project. That was a big one. It was a very expensive one. Yes, we collaborated with the state of Minnesota and got that grant, but with your commitment to funding that program, that's going to help us out. With the regrading that we did, it's hopefully going to make that turf last a lot longer, and it's beautiful. Working with our communications staff and getting that logo in the middle, it just looks great. So thank you to the council for that.
Thank you. Sing, and you don't have to talk as fast.
I don't think I have as many slides, so I might be a little bit, I need to slow down too, I guess. So thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and thank you, Greg, for that introduction. So engineering utility staff-wise, so we have kind of 2 divisions within the department. We have utilities and engineering as well. As you know, utilities is in charge of kind of our water supply system, so that includes providing safe, plentiful water to our community, both during the wintertime as well as during peak season as well in the wintertime, so we do use a lot more water in the summer. We also are in charge of the water towers, pipes underneath the streets, the roadways you don't normally see, as well as the 2 treatment plants that we have within the community. Sanitary sewer system-wise, we are in charge of the lift stations, the sanitary sewer pipes that do run along the streets, as well as force main that does pump the wastewater to where it needs to go. So the one thing that isn't known a whole lot for utilities is the cell tower leases as well. So you see our towers have a lot of antennas. A lot of our service providers are on those towers. We are also overseeing those that are within the park system as well. And so those leases do take some time. They do need to make modifications. So from a staff level standpoint, it does take some time for that. Engineering-wise, we are in charge of capital improvements projects. So anything you see that's dug up, torn up, causing issues for travel, that would be our department. So a lot of the street improvement projects as well as development as well. So we are involved with that from the inception of planning or coordination with planning, as well as through construction and through the end phases of those developments. So you kind of see site plans, like for instance, the Holiday gas station was put in, the apartments that are being built. So the engineering staff is as part of that. We also coordinate with other agencies as well with those improvement projects. So Scott County, MnDOT are partners with MnDOT, watershed districts as well are kind of agencies that we work with in terms of improvement projects. So you kind of see last year, County Road 16, we were extensively involved with that due to the utility impacts of that project. So we were out on that project as well. Water resources, we are, from a surface water standpoint, ponds, anything related to wetlands, the fen, rivers within the city. We are also coordination and taking part of that as well in terms of improvements, particularly the pond improvements that we do on an annual basis. Natural resources, that is our tree person essentially. So any natural resource areas as well. So we do maintain those. Works extensive with public works staff in terms of tree removal, EAB management plan. That was a big one that that was put together as part of that. GIS as well as part of the function engineering. So any maps you kind of see, data analysis, data record keeping, databases, that is within our GIS function within engineering. We did put an objective together, but it is kind of hard when you kind of have all those functions within the department. So we tried our best. We threw this out to staff and said, hey, what do you want to add in terms of our objective within the department? So it's a long list. I won't read it, but hopefully it encompasses all those comments that I did receive Also with some help from AI, trying to bring that down a little bit, but we still had a long objective. So from a staff standpoint, we do have 19 FTEs within both engineering and utilities. Activity measures, I try to focus on more things or more items that aren't necessarily known in terms of engineering utility-wise, and try to keep some within those departments. So GIS maps update created. You kind of see 2023 we had 97. That bumped up a little bit, so we're creating more maps and just to keep track, record keeping better. So particularly the use of Datify and kind of that GIS component as well. Number of locates, so that's something we do. So if you do go for locates, the city has to respond to those as well. So for instance, if you're planting a tree in your yard, you go for locates, city staff has to respond to those in a time frame that is required. So you see locates, we do about 3,900 in 2024, a little bit less in 2023. A lot of this has to do with the fiber as well that's being installed within our community. So a lot of the fiber companies are coming in. Nuvera, Mediacom, and now Gigapower as well is kind of coming in. So we're seeing a lot more locates and a lot more impacts to the utility staff. Water consumption, so we do consume about 900 to about a little over 1 billion gallons per year. So give or take, I think last year in 2024 was a little bit less because of the wetter season that we had. But overall, we are upwards of about 1 billion gallons of usage or consumption. Tree removed, that is collaboration with Public Works as well as ICWC crew. So 320, that has a lot to do with our EAB management, those trees within the right-of-way, kind of public spaces as well. Right-of-way permits, you kind of see the reduction in right-of-way permits there just because of the impacts we saw in terms of properties and staff time as well. So we kind of dialed that back and required them to kind of cut down their areas in terms of right-of-way permits, trying to control that as best as we could. So that's why you kind of see the reduction. We had put in certain conditions that they had to meet before we moved on to the next permits, and that's kind of why it's less, so more manageable numbers in terms of restoration needs and impacts to our community. Traffic Safety Committee agenda items, you kind of see there, we had about 16 last year. Part of that, we had a pretty big project in terms of collector street speed limit policy. That was a big project for Traffic Safety Committee to partake. So there's a couple here in this room. Captain Heskey, as well as Community Development Director Regina Dean, was part of the committee as well. So that's finally being implemented. Hopefully this spring. Public engagement is currently ongoing right now. Let's Talk Savage. So we've had some comments back in terms of when is that going to get put in place. Accomplishments, you're going to see similar projects as well as kind of presented by Public Works Director Boltman. Because we are so intertwined and involved, you will see the same project. So one of the big ones, Credit Tower Rehabilitation, you kind of see that's a high visible site. That was a pretty big project, try to get that up and going again this summer. Our typical projects are 2024 Street Improvement Project, which was at the River Bend area, Joppa Avenue area, as well as kind of Road 16 I kind of mentioned earlier. Lead and copper inventory per the requirements of the EPA. We got that phase 1 completed. We do have a couple galvanized services within the city. No lead yet as we've seen within the city, but we are following up with that 2 galvanized services to make sure, at least affirm that that is the case. Park projects, the parking lot kind of mentioned before, the dome turf replacement, and then the ball field, pinwheel improvements as well. So a lot of work with the community park. And then as well as a stormwater reuse project. So that was actually in Community Park as well. That finally was completed last year. And then Creek Hill Park as well as part of the park projects. Future challenges we're seeing, so our water supply, critical to our community. Obviously with the radium issue we dealt with last year, so that will hopefully be taken care of here with the rehabilitation of the filtered media bays within Water Treatment Plant 3. But we also have emerging contaminants. So we've seen other communities dealing with emerging contaminants, particularly PFAS, more towards the north and northeast portion of that. But we do have some communities that are in the southern area as well. The one that does come to mind is Apple Valley, that's dealing with PFAS as well. So there are communities dealing with that. We're not going to share how that's going to shift because obviously that could potentially have an impact here. Quinton Avenue improvements as well. I've kind of shown a picture there of Quinton Avenue and the bridges there. Hopefully we'll try able to get or complete that project in the near future. And then council kind of seen that Highway 13 presentation at the work session last week as well. So that's another large project in collaboration with all our agency partners, MnDOT, Scott County, Dakota County, Burnsville, in completion of that project, hopefully in 2030 with the start in 2027. So 3-year project, hopefully it'll be less than that, but that is a pretty substantial project for completion. Other challenges, project funding, obviously as costs rises, the amount of funds we allocate towards projects continue to stay the same, so we'll have to kind of look at that and see if we need additional funding sources in order to keep up with some of those improvements. So we have been able to utilize or leverage other funding sources such as state aid dollars. For instance, with the project coming up in 2025, the South Park Drive, we are utilizing more of this state aid dollars for that, but we still have a need there, so there'll be a challenge moving forward. Key staff retirements as well, so institutional knowledge. We do have some staff that will be retiring both from utilities and engineering, and so in order to replace that, succession planning, how do we kind of see that moving forward? So that will be some of the challenges we'll have to face. Otherwise, that's really all the presentation I have. I'll certainly take any questions, comments.
Any questions, comments? Well, I have comments. You didn't highlight, and I'm going to, one of the things that you do is the 10-year street plan, which I think from my perspective has been really important in trying to figure out, where our streets are and what we're going to do. And I also think notifying our residents, this is kind of what the plan is, and this is, what we're thinking and where the streets are at. And so I know that there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into just that document alone that we use a lot, and just want to thank you for that. And you didn't highlight it, so I'm going to. Thank you.
Amazing.
And I don't see anyone for public comments, so we'll move on to additions, modifications, and approval of the agenda. Any additions, changes?
None from staff, Mayor.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion by Bergstrom, seconded by Coughlin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the minutes. Approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting from February 3rd, 2025. Any corrections? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Coughlin, seconded by Bergstrom. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to B, approve the minutes of the City Council work session from February 10th, 2025. Any changes?
Motion to approve this.
I have one correction. I wanted to, I thought staff did a pretty good job highlighting, the potential taking in the eminent domain issues that were in there, but I didn't think that there was anything about Bob's comments about access to the river in relation to the Highway 13 project. And I just thought that was important, that we should make sure that the minutes reflect those comments.
I hope MnDOT at least took those notes.
I think they were taking those notes, but I thought it should be reflected in our minutes as well, that we had mentioned wanting to make sure that there was that access to the river. So with that amendment, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from the city council work session.
Second.
Motion by Bergstrom, seconded by Coughlin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There are no public hearings for tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda. These are routine items of business that are collectively presented for approval through a single motion. Council members may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Under personnel, adopt a resolution authorizing personnel actions for the city of Savage. Under engineering and utilities, 1, adopt a resolution receiving the plans and specifications and authorize advertisement for bids for the South Park Drive Improvement Project, City Project 25-02. 2, adopt a resolution requesting the advancement of $1,710,528 in municipal state aid funds for the South Park Drive Improvement Project in 2025, City Project 2502. Under planning, adopt a resolution approving a lease agreement amendment with Jay Hurd for American Family Insurance Office at 4735 West 123rd Street. And under Finance, adopt a resolution to approve claims listing. Is there anything anybody wants to pull? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Coughlin, seconded by Bergstrom. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well, we're doing pretty good. There's nothing under general business. City council reports. Bob?
We had a scale general meeting, which was very informative. It was a very good opportunity. We had the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution from the state of Minnesota, which came in, and that sounds kind of wordy, but they came in and talked to us about how to handle how things are going in today. You know, how to handle conflicts, how to maybe. They didn't actually give us step 1 and step 2, but they gave us some background and some ideas on where people are going nowadays with their feelings on the society and public and their interaction with how it's changed our interaction with our constituents over the last few years. It's maybe not as civil as it used to be, and how some opportunities to collaborate and how do we overcome these conflicts and work together. So it was a very good opportunity to see what they had to say, and we even had some breakouts within the members there, so we had a chance to interact with each other even more, because sometimes we show up at these scale meetings, we see a presentation, we all walk away, and we don't always get a chance to talk to each other a lot. So it was a good bonding experience actually for our scale membership. Brad was also there, so Brad, I don't know if you had anything additional you'd like to add to that.
I think you got it.
There we go. So, and tomorrow I will be substituting at the Minnesota Valley Transit Authority meeting. So,
For Stacy.
update to come.
Megan, did you have any meetings?
Nope.
All right. We had a Burnsville Savage meeting, and I'm going to wait for the summary until Matt comes back, because I know he was diligently taking notes. So we'll do that update when he is able to join us again. Brad and I had a conversation with our Minnesota House Representative, Jessica Hansen, last Friday, and I thought it was a really great conversation, and talking about what Savage's priorities are, and where she can help and where she was going to redirect it to other folks and that kind of thing. So we'll see how things are going, and if we need something, Bob.
Was that basically our approved legislative agenda? Were there any new items that have come up lately? Like, did we discuss more like Highway 13 funding or anything like that?
We did bring up Quinton Avenue. Quinton Avenue was already on our list, but things have kind of been changing over the last year and a half. So we think that we may need to potentially change the bonding language to make it a little more flexible for us to use the bonds. So that's something new that wasn't really contemplated in that one pager that we originally had.
Thank you.
And we did bring up again, I mean, I think this is in our priorities, but the publication issue. To me, this is one of those things that both sides should be able to come together, outstate, the regional Minneapolis, St. Paul. I mean, this is something that's affecting everybody. And going to something that makes more sense as far as notifying our projects and all of that kind of stuff, they should be able to figure something out. And I mean, posting things on local websites or having, the state host something. I mean, I don't know, but I just think that the two groups should be able to come together for this, and I think it's something everybody needs. So we did that one. I think that was that meeting. And then today, I met with a group of people who are very motivated to have Savage get on the map related to Camp Savage. And Savage's work, Cargill specifically, is work on the ships for World War II and doing a World War II Camp Savage memorial, something like that. So there was 8 people at the meeting today, and we'll start filling you in on where things are going. The one thing I got handed to me was, and Brad and I are looking at it, is getting Savage on the National Park American World War II Heritage City. So we have to look at this and figure out whether or not that's something we want to do and be a part of. But the deadline for this is coming up pretty quickly, so I got handed it this morning. We'll see if it happens yet this year and where we're going. But like I said, there was a very motivated group of people who want to put Savage on the map. So that was interesting this morning. And that's all I had. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You can
Second. Motion by Bergstrom, seconded by Kelly. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. The meeting is adjourned.